Welcome to the Low Limit Poker Challenge. My name's Ara and I am standing outside of the Twin River Pizzeria and Thai Cafe right next to it. If you can see it, that next awning right there. So walk with me inside and we will get Ray's really quick update on session 9 because he's working right now. So I'll do most of the talking for this one. So come this way and walk with me right inside here. This is the entrance to both Thai Cafe and Twin River Pizzeria, and this is Ray over here being lazy at work. You think as an owner he'd be doing more? Say hi, Ray.
Hey guys.
So really quickly, we just want to go over the worst hand of the day. If you could just take like 30 seconds and tell them really quick.
All right, worst hand of the day. This is going to be two hands. Back-to-back days, but it was with the exact same hand, so that's why I'm calling it the worst hand of the day, because individually they probably weren't the worst hand of the day, but combined what my opponents did was terrible.
Yeah, we're combining two separate people into one worst play, so that's never been done before.
I had pocket aces twice. So yesterday I had pocket aces, raised pre-flop, which I had done a ton. People definitely thought I was a crazy aggressive player. I was called by 3 or 4 players. The flop came out Jack 8-3 with 2 clubs. Everybody checked to me. I was in position in the hand. I bet out $25. I got everybody to fold except for the guy directly to my right who called.
And on that kind of flop, you're pretty much loving the flop. I mean, you're thinking someone could have a straight draw, flush draw, but unless they have a set, you're really not beat at all.
So the turn comes, and the turn is a complete whiff. Doesn't make the flush, doesn't make any straight possibilities out there. It's another small card. He checks to me, I make a small bet. I actually bet $30 because I want to tag him along. He goes and min raises me, which sets off bells in my head like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? 30 was too small at this point to fold, even though I thought I was beat, so I just called. The river comes out, the river completely misses again. He checks, I check behind. He flips over a set of 8s. A set of 8s against pocket aces. In that situation, he could have probably had almost all my money on the flop if he had re-raised.
Really quickly, he could have just re-raised you on the flop.
Yeah.
And then you probably would have had to just stick it in with your hand.
Yeah, most likely if I go from 25 on the flop and he goes to like 75, I'm thinking he may have something like pocket queens. He could also have ace jack, but I'm not folding pocket aces for less than 100 big blinds. So I would have went with it and he would have doubled up, but he actually said after the hand he was nervous of the flush draw. So he put me on a flush draw. And what makes him think I have a flush draw? Obviously I could, but whenever there's a flush draw out there, it doesn't mean somebody has it, especially the pre-flop raiser. I mean, chances for him to flop a flush draw when he raised with 2 cards that, pre-flop, not happening. So then getting to the second one today, I was on the button and a few people limped in, and the guy in the hijack goes and he raises to 15. The cutoff folds, comes to me. I immediately raised to 45. Didn't want to put too much thought into it. The guy in the 10C who had limped in for 2 goes all in for 48. It looked like a play with like 2 big cards, maybe a small pocket pair. He's ready to double up or go home. And then it gets back to the guy who raised 15. He goes and folds. Well, come to find out, he folded pocket kings. Even though I had pocket aces, on the button, I'm re-raising with ace king, ace queen suited. I'm re-raising with 10s or better. So many hands I can be raising with there. It does not have to be aces. So I think it's a terrible fold for $30 pre-flop, although it was very lucky of him to be able to fold when I did have aces.
And let me just put this into perspective real quick. So today we played for, I think, 3 or 3.5 hours. And Ray 3-bet, I think it was 6 times, is that right? And I 3-bet, I think 3 times, or maybe 4 times. I'm doing this from memory.
So to put me on
but
aces,
he doesn't just have aces when he re-raises.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So the flop comes out king 5-5. He would have flopped the full house. In that situation, he would check to me. At this point, there would have been about $150 in the pot. I would have probably come out betting like $60, $75 into that flop, hoping he has ace king, wanting him to raise. He would have obviously raised at that point, so now he ends up raising even if he min raises to 150, 175, I'm just going all in after that, and then he takes my whole stack.
Well, regardless how the action goes, I mean, even if someone slow played something on that flop, there's a very, very high probability that Ray would have lost all his chips on that flop.
So yeah,
so because of people playing timid, slow playing, not trying to build pots with their good hands, that was 2 situations that Ray did not lose a lot of chips.
And those are back-to-back days. That just goes to show you that you do not need to outplay people to win at 1-2. Just let people make terrible mistakes, which both of those were. So
and,
again,
and it always happens on 1-2. Let me just talk about a hand that I played today because I want to kind of do a what would you do segment. So I'll let you go
Okay.
do what you're doing. I'll
Bye,
come
guys.
back in a minute. You can say goodbye to everyone. So this is kind of a what would you do scenario. So I had 2-3 of hearts in the big blind. So the flop was King 5-4. The turn was an ace, and the river was a 7. So I had the lowest straight possible. So I'll tell you what the action was. A bunch of people limped in pre-flop. 5 people limped in, I believe. The small blind completed the $2, and then I checked the big blind. So now there's about $14 in the pot. So the flop is King 5-4. I have an open-ended straight draw, small blind checks, and I bet $12. I'm a very aggressive player, and I often do this, and I often bet my draws. I'm trying to build the pot for when I do actually hit my hand. I like to get the big wins. So I get one person to call an early position, one person to call from the hijack, and the small blind also calls the $12. So that's $48 more in the pot. Now the pot is about $60, give or take. I get a beautiful card on the turn. It's an ace. Small blind checks, I bet 25. The first guy folds. The next guy, he calls the 25. This was an older gentleman who was a little bit on tilt and probably ready to stick his stack in with anything good. So when I bet the $25, it was actually a little bit undersized, giving the older gentleman an opportunity to just shove his stack in and hopefully think he can take it down. So he didn't do that. He called the $25. And the guy in the small blind thought for a second and then decided to call the $25 as well. So at this point, my stack was $200. The small blind had me covered. And the older gentleman in the hijack position, he had about $110, $115. So now we see a river card. I'm definitely hoping for no club. I don't want to see a club in the river because I assume that the small blind could very, very likely have a flush draw. I also don't want to see an 8 or a 3 because if he has a hand like 6-7, I don't want him to hit a straight, or he could have 6-7 of clubs, who knows. So the turn is a 7. The small blind just pretty quickly checks, and I decide that I really want to get value from this older gentleman. So I bet $95. I wanted to bet about 80 to 90% of his stack. I wanted to keep it a 2-digit number because I did want him to call, and I didn't want to seem too intimidating by saying all in. But I definitely wanted action. I knew that for sure he was going to give me action with 2 pair. And with 1 pair, he was probably going to give me action, especially if he had the ace and not the king. So with the offsuit 7 in the river, I bet $95. The old guy pretty quickly folded, to my disappointment. And then the small blind pretty quickly went all in, to my surprise. So at this point, I had $96 left. So this is a what would you do situation. To give you some history about the guy in the small blind, he was a thinking player. In 1-2 no limit terms, he was a pretty good player. I'm pretty sure that he is a winning player at 1-2 no limit. Not too sure if he'd be a winning player at higher stakes, but he's a very friendly guy. He's a new dad. And so I do not, from my own read, to influence you a little bit, I do not think that this is a situation that he would be bluffing in. I couldn't think of too many hands like missed flush draws, missed straights that he would turn into a bluff. But that being said, I'm not going to tell you what he had, and I'm not going to tell you what I did. So, to recap the river again, I bet 95. The small blind check raised me to $191 total, putting me all in. So it's $96 more to call. And I'm getting about 4.5 to 1, a little bit more than 4.5 to 1 on my money to make the call. So what would you do with 2-3 of hearts right here? We will update the answer in the next video to let's see if you would have played this hand the same way as me. So again, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, if you don't like the video, whatever, leave us a comment and give us a thumbs up and say goodbye to Ray. And Ray, invite everyone to Twin River to come eat.
Come on down, have some drinks. Ours paying, so come on down.
Yeah, for every 100 people you bring, you get a free meal. So come on down. It's Thai Cafe and Twin River Pizza. Bye, guys.